Can you guys hear anything yet over there?
I don't see anything from the commission meeting.
Well, I can see them, but
Now connected, yep. That's what
there we go.
Thanks, Angela. Thank you, Stacy, too. Thank you, Stacy. Want to come to all our meetings?
I told Ed, we've been here so.
I didn't take notes. We were
I
in
told
and out
Danny,
there.
I need a break already.
Oh, call the meeting to order and stand to the pledge. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands.
All right, thank you. Additions to the agenda. Ernie?
I've got quite a few, but they're all small. Mental overpass, I went to the DOT meeting yesterday.
What did you find?
Mental overpass, they're redoing them. It's somewhat, more or less for your information. Water board lawyers, talk to the water board. The housing authority board. The water board also for the snag and clear meeting coming up. I'm gonna talk on the North Dakota soybean.org website. And I'm gonna talk on at the end on some legislative bills. I said,
You lost me.
oh,
Yeah, I'm just.
okay,
Okay.
mental overpass, water board lawyers.
Yep.
Housing authority board.
Yep.
North Dakota soybean.org. Water board, snag and clear, and the legislative bills. And like I said, they all should be pretty quick.
And North Dakota soybean something?
Yeah.
North Dakota soybean.org.
Christie, do you have anything?
I have a couple items when Tanya comes in, the timesheet, you guys had asked me to follow up on the timesheet last meeting, so I think we'll have an update on the timesheet. And also an update on performance review completion, that deadline was, I believe, end of February. And then one other item is with this Tyler transition, there was, discussion with Tyler that they felt we should have a CPA review of our accounting codes. So I'd just like to touch on that.
EPA review.
Amy?
Would like to discuss when we have Jason in regarding the courthouse boiler inspection.
Karen?
Nothing.
Chris?
Just Brenton, the Red River Regional Council bill.
Okay, I don't have anything. Yeah. Buddy review the commission minutes. Monthly bills. The Walsh County Gun Club gaming permit.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
I,
Motion carried. You know, you want to go to Brent?
I guess, quickly, I think Chris gave a copy of everybody.
This one?
Yep, that one, so. For our Tommy Dam storm shelter, we had contracted with the regional council to do some of that work for us at one time with the grant, and The initial grant was turned down and then the state was gonna do another grant and. So they had a bill of $28.50 with our contract with them. We already paid $950 of it, so we owe them $1,900. They discounted that to $1,500. So I'm wondering, if we're going to pay that bill and where we're paying it from. So the previous bill was paid out of the HAMI account. The $950 was paid out of the HAMI account.
Any idea how much is in there?
I have no idea on the HAMI.
It's a brand new budget, they haven't spent anything this year yet.
There should be enough money in that.
Is there a balance there? You know, not there to pay for this?
Well, we'll have to cut expenses somewhere else.
So do you need a motion for that, I imagine?
I would approve to pay it and then where you're paying it from.
I'll make a motion, we pay it out of the HAMI account.
Second,
Okay, there, everybody in favor? Amy,
yes.
Christie,
Yes.
Ernie,
Yes.
Karen?
Yes,
Self, yes, motion carried. That's it?
So, yeah, and then I emailed you that thing on the snow stuff and gave you a copy of it, so unless you've got any other questions for me, that was all I wanted to do.
This is all for county snow expense?
County, township, cities,
Township cities, okay.
yeah, so I did send it to all of the townships and all of the cities, the same. Nothing is set in stone yet, but that is what they anticipate is. You know, it's still in, they've done some amendments and they're anticipating that it's gonna come out in some form, so. They're just, basically when I sent the email out, I told people that, you know, it's not done for sure, and I don't know exactly what the process is gonna be, but to start collecting their information if they think they want to try to participate, because.
Yeah.
With any of those programs, they come and they wanna do it yesterday, so. They should start looking for their documentation if they think they're going to qualify and wanna apply for any of it.
All right, thank you, Brent.
Right.
Stacy?
I'm just here to talk about the county self-help program. You guys should have gotten the request in your meeting packet for the 22 program. Just a reminder, we're always working a year behind on this program. This is the county's program to promote community betterment projects in cities in Walsh County. So you're reviewing a request from 2022, which were due in December. So the program criteria requires that the request can't exceed half of the project, and their max ask can be $1,500, which the cities have to match 1-for-1. And then they need to vote on it at a city meeting to determine what they're going to apply for. The deadline was December. You received 9 requests for projects totaling more than $85,000. The chart in the 2022 chart shows you what the request you received for this year was more than, well, it's $13,000. Typically you award $750 or $1,000 to each city, regardless of their request. And then I also put in the historical chart, which shows you over time since 2008, which you've decided to do. So once you determine what you're going to do as far as your awards, we'll send a notice to these cities telling them how to seek reimbursement. They send their requests to Chris for reimbursement. And so once you decide that, we will work on sending those notices out. And then I also just wanted to mention that over the coming months, our goal is to transition this program to be managed by the JDA. And so going forward, this would be something out of that office. So.
Previously, we've given 1,000.
Last couple of years.
Yeah, last couple of years, it's been 1,000.
What fund does this come out again, Chris?
We have a specific line item for it. It's county general.
Do we have a motion to approve and at what cost?
I would make a motion that we approve at the $1,000 per city, like we've done in the past couple of years.
There a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Now we'll call for the vote. Christie,
Yeah.
Ernie,
Yes.
Karen?
yes,
Yes.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the help with
Stacy.
all.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Jason? You hear us?
Yes, I do. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Click the one. First thing on the agenda, I'll start with Brian Fuchs with DOT. Talk to him about bridge inspections. Brian and a few others with some training sessions we just left Pittsburgh a while ago. Kind of, already had some questions for Brian. So I'll kind of turn it over. Hear us, Brian?
Jason, are you on Bluetooth?
Yes.
Cause you're coming in a little bit hard, like echoey almost.
It's hard to hear you.
No, we can't hear him at all.
Is he talking?
Well, his lips are okay.
Yeah, see, I can't hear you without my Bluetooth on from the thing. So try again. Brian Fuchs, he's here with North Dakota DOT. We did some training earlier today. Bernie had some questions in regards to bridge inspections. Other commissioners have some questions. So brought Brian in to have conversations, and it's fair to turn over to Brian. He's still with us, and let him go from his portion and go from there. Is that any better?
No, it's not. Brian, can you hear him all right?
I can hear him a little bit, but it sounds like the commissioners have a few questions for me with regard to bridge inspections, so.
I can hear him a little bit.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah.
I think what they want is you guys to ask Brian your questions in regards
Okay.
to.
Anybody have any questions for Brian?
Shut my Bluetooth off. Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Just was, I'm gonna shut the video off so I don't have to see my eyeball.
Well, it
So
only
just to
helps
have
you.
Brian Fuchs and on with us. So we have questions on bridge inspections, different conversations. We've been in training with them earlier today. I know that Ernie had some questions and was wondering if Brian could meet with us, and he's been gracious enough to come in. So I'll just kind of turn over to Brian at this point.
All right, thank you, Brian, for being here. Ernie, you have some questions?
I guess, Brian, since we went to this inspection, I don't know, it just doesn't seem the consistency. It seems like one year we get them evaluated and nothing happens in the floods, and all of a sudden next year they're rated down or whatever. And it just, for the money we're paying, I don't know if we're getting the satisfaction out of these inspections. It just seems like they're all over the board, and then really, sometimes we don't get told what to do or whatever, and it's just, for the money we're getting, I would like to see more consistency. Because we've had a couple of bridges that were rated so many times last year and weren't even damaged, nothing by the flood, and all of a sudden they come back and they got the same pictures, and all of a sudden now we're dropping them down to, let's say, from 8 ton to 4 ton. And it just, I don't know, for the money we're paying and everything else, it just bothers me that there's that much non-consistency, or whatever you want to call it.
Hey, yeah, we do go through, and our bridge division does QC QA on bridges, but they don't check every bridge. If they come across a critical finding or something like that, those are reviewed individually then to see what they're coming up with. If there's certain bridges that you have a concern with, we can look at those individually to see where there's issues. I know that there has been a couple bridges in question that there's been some inconsistencies with those inspections, and some of that deals with different bridge inspectors and different opinions at times. And sometimes some of the load ratings have been coming through, like last year, we just got all the load ratings in towards the end of 22, and there was some cleanup on some of those load ratings. So are you talking, Ernie, where it's going to go from, like, say, 8 tons down to 4 tons? Without specific bridges, I can't answer the question specifically, but we do have issues where once a load rating is done, yeah, we may drop a bridge from 8 tons down to 4 tons once we actually have an official load rating done on those. And sometimes if there are issues or they think there's issues on a bridge, they will do a critical finding to lower the tonnage down until either repairs can be made or an additional load rating can be done on those. So if you have specific bridges that you'd like us to look at, we can certainly do that to provide a better answer for you and you to address your concerns.
Are other counties questioning you on some of their ratings or inspections?
Some other regions, depending on the county and condition of their bridges, there has been some issues. With those, now you guys have, I just looked at your most recent data. You know, we're showing about 206 bridges in Walsh County that we are inspecting. Not all of those bridges, I'd have to go through and double check on when we're inspecting those, but not all of them are done in 1 year. Some inspections or some bridges are inspected more than every 2 years, depending on their condition. So we may inspect some of those bridges annually based on their condition. If you have a box culvert that's in a certain condition, those jump to every 4 years until they degrade down to a certain level, or if they are posted for load for whatever reason, you know, then those would go back to 2 years. So the cycle varies, but you do have 206 bridges. And our data is showing that based on those 206 bridges, you have less than 23% that are considered in good condition. You know, you have about 25% are poor condition, the rest are fair. So you don't have very many good bridges. And of the 206 bridges, 91 of them are posted for load.
Are you guys as a state happy with this? Is it the name of the company Collins or whatever, who's doing the inspecting? Are you pretty happy or consistent with their work, or are you guys having problems with your bridges?
They are doing state bridges as well, and we do meet with them occasionally, and we will meet internally on this. I was telling Jason earlier that we're going through and updating for the 23 inspections now, and that's what our last RFP was for 22 and 23 inspections. And then we'll evaluate and determine if we want to move forward with having any region, the same consultant in any region, do it again for 24 and 25. And we weren't happy with one of our regions previously, so we did not hire them back this last cycle. So we will have those conversations again, and I'll visit with our bridge division to see what their opinion is of Collins in this region. And any insight from the local agencies are more than welcome. That if you guys aren't happy, you know, we do take that into account. And then what we do after this year is if we determine not to move forward with any consultant in a region, we'd have to go up for an RFP again and go through interviews again and select somebody else.
Well, you answered my question, I guess. Anybody else got any more?
I don't really think anybody on this commission is very satisfied with we just can't keep up with this. The more I look at this Collins Engineering doing it, I mean, they find fault with a bridge, they downgrade it, then they've got to come back every year or twice a year. To me, it seems like somewhat of a conflict of interest. I mean, the more work they create, the more work,
Right.
the job security they've got. That's the part that bothers me.
Yeah,
Maybe
just to let you know, when they do that, our bridge division does look at what the recommendation is. If they're gonna reduce it down to say, if they got to, instead of every one inspected every 2 years, they want to come back every year. Our bridge division does review that to see if they agree with them or not. And depending what the issue is, there is always the option, if it's possible, that the county can go out and repair that issue. So then it would go back to 2 years. But again, it's bridge specific on any issue that may be out there. I know Jason and his crew have went out there and fixed a lot of those bridges and repaired a lot of those that they could. And those inspections should go back to 2 years then if they take care of those actions that they think they need to inspect every year. But our bridge division does look and review those. When they want to make those frequency changes, we do question them on that.
That's good to hear.
I guess we just get sticker shock with all the bills we're getting.
Well, and I guess my question would be is, why are we basically forced to go with Collins to get the cost share? Why can't we work with a local engineering firm? Because we all know their travel up here alone must be. Unless they have somebody local, I guess I don't know.
Yeah, they are a Minnesota firm, so yeah, there is travel. And when we look at all of the regions, Collins is not the most expensive region. And one of our regions, this last time we did go with local firms, they teamed up. There's 3 local firms that teamed up for one region. And they aren't the cheapest either. So just because you get local doesn't mean they will necessarily be the cheapest. That is always an option if you don't want to move with Collins. If you want to terminate the agreement you have with us, you can certainly hire whoever you want to complete those inspections and pay for it yourself. You know, the other option is if you want to use federal aid, you can use your federal aid money that's allocated to the county each year to get 80% of it paid. Because that is what we're doing right now. We're using other bridge funds to pay for 80% of this. So we got 80% of the brunt. You're getting billed little over 19% right now for what it's costing us to do these inspections.
Right, so if we choose to go off on our own, then we don't get the cost share, the federal aid.
Yeah.
Correct.
The thing about having local guys and our engineers here, they just know our bridges and everything better.
Right,
Well, there's no doubt, given the age of the bridges and the infrastructure in the county, that we've got problems. And every flood that we endure, the more wear and tear it is on that equipment. Anything else that we need to discuss? Jason, do you have any questions? Imagine you
No.
talked to him personally.
No, I don't have any questions as to where we are right now. I know that I have talked to Wade Thompson, KLJ, about these, and he's said, yeah, they would be more expensive than what we're paying right now for what we're doing through the DOT for having them inspected. He didn't give me a number because he doesn't have one, but we would definitely be a lot more expensive than we're getting our bridges inspected for now. So.
Well, if there's any other questions for Brian?
Thank you, Brian. I requested Jason to get you online just so we could ask some questions, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, and if you have any other questions, just let me know. But also, you know, this last year in 22, you guys were probably also getting bills from the previous inspection and load rating cycle, as well as from inspections in 22. And moving forward, it will not be as expensive because in 22, we're only doing the inspections and load ratings if needed. So moving forward, it's just inspections, where when we started in 20 and 21, we were doing inspections and having to load rate them. So that more than doubled the cost. So now in 22 and moving forward, you know, you're going to see about 50% of that cost coming forward.
well, that's good news.
Yeah, that explains a lot.
Yeah.
All right.
So, yeah, if you
Thank
have
you.
anything else, just let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, Brian.
And
Bye.
Hey, do you have something? Karen?
no, I just said, thanks, Brian.
Okay, all right. Okay, Jason?
The next item I had was a snow update. The guys have been out taking care of what they can last weekend, this week. Tomorrow, with whatever we get, the Oshkosh and Dozer will be heading out to 19 to work out there. Hopefully we don't get as much as what they were saying last night when I was looking at, we're 0-2, the max, and now it sounds like we get anywhere up to 5. But the guys are out working on it. Some of the problems we had last weekend where people were coming and complaining, we had a vehicle parked in the middle of the road and abandoned. So we couldn't open up the road without getting the vehicle removed. So we had to work through that process with the help of the sheriff's office and towing companies to get that car out. So we're just out trying to make some space for whatever more snow we get. Get spots that are filling in with the blowing. So I think warmer thoughts, but not real warm.
You know,
The next item I have is from Kingston Ironworks. I was able to get a price to get one of those reclaimers. The price for one reclaimer is $20,407. And if we were to buy 2, it was $36,814. So the price did come up for it just because of the engineering and the development design stuff, the time they'd have to put into it, where instead of having that spread out over multiple pieces of equipment, it's all in one. So
do other counties have this piece of equipment?
yes, there's other counties that have this equipment that mount on their blades. Towner has one that they made it themselves through old equipment. It's not going to be as sturdy as what we would have when we get this from Kingston Ironworks. There's other counties that have different versions of it that mount right off of the moldboard. But when you mount it off of the moldboard and go out, you can't make it as a single pass because you're pulling up all the gravel and things behind you and not in front of the moldboard and be able to spread it out and take care of things. There's a lot of counties that swear by them, saying that they get a savings because you can recover some of your gravel that goes into the ditch over the winter. We do have the one that mounts behind the tractor, but this would just make us be able to cover more ground faster. The flooding time, we'd be able to have this on the motor graders and be able to recover some of that stuff that washed off a lot easier than what we had this year. And they'd be able to do it on each pass when they went by, as more of it was dried. When the motor graders are out maintaining the roads, they would be able to pull up some of that gravel, where otherwise we're out there with the skid steer or the excavator trying to recover gravel from this last flood, this last spring. So that's kind of where we're at with it.
I guess the question is, we're just trying to get our head around just how this piece of equipment is going to work. Do you have a name of one of the counties that has done, I mean, are you copying this off another county or?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I haven't spoken to anyone that's copying this version of it. I know a lot of people have the version where we're pulling it behind the tractor and going out in front of them. But, to me, that's also, you got 2 pieces of equipment running down the same mile of road, 2 operators and double the time. So, and then some of the motor graders are out working on their stuff, getting their roads prepped up and going back on it a second time when we do finally get the reclaimer over there. It only takes us like a week and a half to go and do it with the reclaimer for a normal spring. But when you get to the time with the floods, it makes it trickier. So
would you have any kind of video or anything? I suppose not if they're just building these, but do you have a video or anything that you could show us how one of these would work, Jason? I
can have one for the next meeting of a different version. Yes.
As long as it's mounted on the grader, that's what we're gonna do.
I can try and find one where one's mounted on the grader that we can show you what it's gonna do. I believe I can get one through Upper Great Plains showing the one that Towner built. So I can reach out to LTAP and see if they can't give me one of those, so I can share it at the next meeting.
Okay, and then my other question.
Go ahead.
I forgot my other question. What was I gonna ask you? Have you budgeted for this? Like, say we went with the 2 for 36,000, have you budgeted for that? Do you have the money set aside for it, or?
It wasn't budgeted, but I have found the money to do it. Yes.
You said Towner has one?
they built one. They built one out of an old horse-drawn disc and scrap steel laying around their yard. In places, they went through a couple of different variations of it, and then it's basically along the same lines as what the guys won the award with the maintainer or the guardrail cleaner. It's on the same process of that, so we were able to get plans from them of what they built that were free. But it's just this one we would have would be much more heavy duty than what they built. But I can get a video of it for the next meeting.
Yeah, I would appreciate that if you could.
If you're talking about a Wishick disc, you're not gonna find anything heavier built.
No, and this would have a Wishick disc on it.
Yeah.
So
Have you talked to any of them about like operators? Is it overwhelming running something like this plus the blade? Or
No.
are they, no problem?
no problems.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
the staff is in favor of it then, the ones that would be operating it?
I'm sorry, you got broke up.
I'm sorry, I said your operators, the guys that would be operating this, they're in favor of it, you've discussed it with them and they're in favor
Yeah.
of going this route?
Yep. Yeah, a couple of them thought it would be a really good way to get out and get going on things, and they wouldn't have to, they could go out and take care of stuff and not have to worry about waiting for the tractor to get there and go through. We also have a couple of townships that have asked if we'd be able to run a reclaimer down their township roads, and this would give us the ability to take the tractor one out there to do that for them. You know, obviously, or rent them the equipment and they could put it on their tractor as well. But it would give us that option.
All right, well, we'll table this till the next meeting when we get a video of it and discuss it
Okay.
further. All right.
Okay. Next item on the list is the courthouse boiler inspection that happened last Wednesday. We did have some components fail the boiler inspection. The emergency shut-off valve that didn't work, and a couple other different components. We're waiting for official write-up from the boiler company, and we've been reached out to Custom Air to see what type of things they could do. A lot of the issues can't be fixed until we can drain down the boiler and shut the boiler system off. So we're not going to do that at this point in time, being we're still in our 6 months of winter phase. So we have to have the boiler basically shut off and drain down to make the repairs needed. At this point in time, I do not have a cost of what those repairs to the boiler are going to be. I don't think that it could be a large sum, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Depends if they find something else as we're going into it. So
All right.
that's kind of where we're at with the boiler inspection. The next item I had was asking permission to rehire. We had a resignation this last week. Eli will be done working for us on March 31st and going into private business. So I was looking for authorizations to advertise to fill his position.
That'll be full staff.
We will be when I can fill that position. Yes.
Okay.
I would make a motion that we would backfill Eli's position.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Now we'll call for the vote. Amy?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes,
Christie?
Yes,
Ernie?
Yes,
Myself, yes. Motion carried.
Thank you. One other thing I was looking to add, I replaced the light bulb in the projector in the farmer's room. It was $120 light bulb. That did not fix the machine. So the machine tells me we need to bring in somebody to take a look at the machine. I don't know if we want to put more money into that projector. I don't know who we purchased it from, how long it's been there. We're already to $120, or I think it's $120 for that light bulb. my recommendation would be to remove the projector and the drop down screen and move to a television that with HDMI cable, so that when you're having meetings in there, you can just plug the computer into the HDMI port and move forward and be done, and not having to worry about having the projector and all those other components working with each other. TV prices that I saw from Sam's Club would be like $1,200. The wall mount, the data jacks are right there on the wall, so we could possibly even just hardline right into that without having to do it with the Wi-Fi and things. With a smart TV, we'd be able to go and make connections that way to meetings as well. So I guess
Jason called me when the light bulb didn't work, and it was like the day of our jail meeting. And he wanted to go, he said, can I go Thursday night and buy one? I said, no. I said, we better run and buy the rest of them. But you know, as old as that thing is, everything else, I think they should go to a TV. And you priced what, 60-inch out, you said?
I think when we looked at the screen that's down there, if we were to go to like a 75 or 80-inch, it would be a little bit smaller than what the drop screen is that's down there right now.
Yeah.
And I said that was like a $1,200, and I asked Mickey to get me a price from Wayne's Plumbing and Heating, because I know they sell TVs, and to see it, but I didn't get a chance today to touch base with Mickey and see if we'd received anything from them yet to try and buy it local. I'm not sure if there's anybody else in Walsh County that sells TVs.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I just am wondering if he's looking, and you are potentially looking local, would it be something where we look to see about getting a 2-for-1, you know, even for something in here?
For this one?
Sitting in the LEC building.
A TV?
Oh, we do.
For that courtroom.
That's
that
right.
Nobody,
How big is that?
How big is that one?
I have no idea.
Does anybody know?
I don't,
I was just-
60 plus probably, but I don't actually know what it is.
Could we check into that,
I was
Jason?
just in there.
Yeah, Jason, can you get some bids on that? And then we'll look at that one that's over in the courtroom in the LEC.
Yep.
And I don't
Yeah.
know. It's potential.
All right.
Here, but.
Is it a smart TV? That'd be the only other thing.
Well, could plug it
Well, we
in.
set it up for COVID, during
Oh, should-
COVID,
it should
so
be.
it should be a relatively new TV.
One question I got for you, Jason, any preparation we need to do for if we flood or when we flood?
Yeah, we're making phone. I was talking to guys to see where we are. Ryan's been out to take a look at how many sandbags we had left in the trailer, or at 15,000, and a big case of loose ones. From talking with Brent, the city of Grafton still has a bunch of them, sandbags we get. We did get the price for sandbag sand in our bids. So now the question is to call and see when we can, how frozen they are from their big stockpiles, and if they can get it broken down enough where we can get some delivered to Grafton and to Park River, so we have sandbag sand on hand. So we're getting some of the preparations ready for it. So we're gonna have some sand on hand.
You know, plan on opening up some of these culverts before the flood comes?
If yes, we can get snowing so we can get off the snow plows and into the excavator.
But that's the plan?
That's the plan. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anything else?
I just have a question for Jason. Jason, I actually got a call from Sharon Lipsch the other day, and she had mentioned something about relining with that sewer smell. She said that there was a plumbing firm that relined one pipe that goes from the building out to the street. And that was her thought, that maybe is what needs to be done for another, that another one probably needs to be done. I don't know what company that is, but that was feedback that she had given me, include as well as the boiler. She said she did a grant for a boiler in the old, or the Chase building, as well as the admin building, and had asked them about doing a grant for the courthouse, and they told her that this boiler was well built structurally, needed some repairs. It sounds like that's kind of what's happening, but they did not recommend, moving forward with that. So
on that boiler inspections that I talked about, that they also take a look at the lines and the walls, because that's part of our problem that we have is some of our lines in the walls that are corroding out.
All of these radiators are connected by pipes that are rusting out and plugging on.
Sure. And that's the trouble, they couldn't line them, isn't that right, Jason, or something?
They're plugged.
They're plugged
Well,
and,
Yeah, especially in the cooling system, those lines are about 70% plugged. I have that piece still on my desk. Where the line is basically plugged out. So you're not getting the flows, you're not getting the things that you need to. Ernie told me that he had spoken with Sharon about that and said that there was a line that they had run too, but I don't have any of that I've seen. I'll have to reach out to Custom Air and see if they still have that. I don't know if they do or not. But
And I don't know if it would be Custom Air for the septic portion or the plumbing side of
I
it.
think they did, if I remember right, because they inspected and then did most of the work, if I remember, and I might be wrong, but I thought they did. That's when I talked to Sharon too, and she was the one that said that Custom Air, as old as that boiler is, it was still in pretty good shape, but we never talked about the walls. It was that line going down to the well and that stuff.
Mhm.
So do you think, Jason, do you think that Custom Air then would be able to do an overall review of it, like you had that other company that came in and did it?
we can talk to them and see, yes.
I mean, I just think, we're looking at, that other company said 5.5 million, which was a definite shock. I'd really like to see another company take a look at it and get a second opinion, maybe?
Tell if it's obsolete and can't fix it or something, but yeah, for that much money, it'd be nice to get a second opinion.
I will see if Custom Air is willing to do that.
Great.
Thank you.
Talked to the plumber that installed a lot of that. He said it was 36 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
Any other
And
questions for Jason?
with the gas leaks portion, Jeff Brule from Custom Air is the one that talked to me about saying that he remembered doing the patch and that they went that way instead of a different route, which would have been cutting up floor in different pieces to break it open so they could replace the piping. That they had a patch that they did, but he couldn't remember exactly what type of a patch they did. So I can see if he has found that in his records yet, as to what type of a patch they did and where it was.
Yeah, very good.
Well, while we got Jason on here, one of mine, I went to that DOT meeting last night in Minto
Yes.
on those overpasses. I don't know if you're aware of it, they're gonna be replacing the overpass, what do you call them, platforms or tops of the overpasses on the two exits, one on Minto and one at Ardoc. And the DOT was there and everything else, and they had a question and answer period. Gary Babinski and that VTAG group were there, and quite a bit of theirs was on concerned drainage on the west side of interstate. They mentioned about maybe taking some culverts out and getting that water to move quicker, then it wouldn't overgo the interstate. And then I was talking on those bridge caps, because they've done it a couple along interstate. They're 30 feet now, and though I don't remember, it was Jason, somebody I talked to. He thought there was a possibility they could widen them to 32 feet. And I wrote in the comments that if possible, it'd be nice to see them widen just for the farm equipment. But most of that work, everybody was thinking it's next year, it's 2024. Then they're only gonna do one at a time, and we highly advise them to get the one on the Minto overpass and that before harvest, like beet harvest and stuff.
Who works on Minto?
Yeah, there's 900 and some trucks that go through there in the day during beets.
In a day, over that overpass?
Yeah, they looked at it and they 870 some or 800 or 900 that come from all the way from Drayton all the way back in that overpass and go. So that's what we tried recommending in a timeline, and he couldn't do anything about the drainage because it's a different department, but they wrote it in their comments and they're hoping that some of that can get, that's part of that VTAG where they want the water to move quicker. Either that or make them bigger culverts and get that water going instead of, and then save the interstate too, to keep it open. So we'll see. They got the comments. So just wanted to let you know, Jason, I went there. So
Good turnout.
Okay.
not really. It was just local hobbies. Well, the ones that are concerned, that VTAG and, Kosmatkas and Chapeskis and all them right on interstate that get flooded every year. And that township was well represented too. So, I mean, there was a lot of good input at the meeting. Just hopefully the state uses it. So.
Anything else for Jason? Not, thank you, Jason.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Tanya,
Good evening.
Evening.
So I sent you some information to review. Based on feedback from your last meeting when you were just announced your resignation. I went ahead and looked closely at the job description for the auditor and the draft way back when we had looked at for an administrator. I spent some time, Christy and Chris and I sat down and went through her job description, line by line, and also went through century code line by line, to try to take a good hard look at what all is entailed on the century code side of it. On our job description for the, just our Walsh County auditor, we just referenced the century code, so we didn't spell out a lot of that. And so it was really helpful, I think, to go ahead and look at century code really closely. I did also reach out to Kelly to ask if we were looking at adjusting or changing anything now or in the future, do we have authority to do that? And I was pretty certain that we did because of our home rule charter, but I wanted confirmation of that. And I did receive a response from her. She took a look at it again at century code and stuff, and we would have authority to do that. You have, it would be by resolution of the board if you were going to change or transfer duties that are originally, an auditor duty to another office or vice versa. If you were going to switch things up like that, there would need to be a resolution if you were going to do that. I don't believe with the job description draft that I've provided to you that resolution would even be required, because right now I just looked at having the auditor and then combining it with an administrator. So it's not necessarily mixing it with other positions that are defined in century code, like the treasurer or any of those others. So I don't believe the resolution is necessary at this stage of the game if you were to go ahead with a draft like the one that I've provided to you. What I did is I took a look at that original draft, tried to sort of split this out somewhat into administrative type tasks and then auditor type tasks. But I tried, and it looks like a lot. I'm just gonna say that, right? It looks like a lot. And it is a lot. So I don't want to downplay that at all. However, I think I just want to make it clear that the point of this position too, this administrator role, the vision that I would have for it and the vision that I understand you would likely have is that this position has the ability to delegate tasks, right? And so this position doesn't necessarily have to do everything that's listed in this comprehensive job description themselves, right? So it's not like they have to perform every one of these tasks as a singular person. And it is a lot. I mean, there's, 3 pages worth of tasks and things like that. So 2, I guess. The last one just is talking about some of the, qualifications that we're looking for. So I think I just want to point that out that yes, it looks like a lot. It is a lot, but I don't necessarily think that should maybe hold us back, because there's the point that we want somebody who's able to delegate some of these tasks and identify skill sets, and match them up. Oh, this person might be really good for perhaps IT related support, or, things like that, just related to the topics that we've been talking about lately. So there's that. I just wanted to point that out. The other, I think, point that I feel like I want to just address and be really forward thinking about it is that some of the feedback that I've heard with regards to an administrator, if I'm going to just look at what's the devil's advocate saying out there, right? Is that perhaps an administrator would harm the working relationship of you as commissioners with the county staff, right? That's some of the feedback that I've maybe heard at some point, because essentially they're saying, well, the commissioners are getting off the hook. And I don't look at it that way at all, I guess, personally. And I think that you absolutely can look at that from a positive spin, that I think if anything, it may help you as commissioners be more proficient in your jobs, right? Because as commissioners, the nature of your role is such that you're never going to fully understand all of the jobs in this building or on this campus, right? You're never going to. You're here twice a month for meetings and in and out as needed otherwise, but that's not necessarily your role And I think that this administrator role might be a better liaison for you. It doesn't mean that you become any less engaged in the departments. You know, I don't think that this would mean that your portfolios ever go away or anything like that. I think if anything, you become more engaged because now you've got somebody who's able to help you better understand what's happening in those departments. And you've never been able to fully grasp sometimes because of the nature of your role. And so I think that that would be my response to that. If there's people that maybe have a negative perception of it, that it might not, you know, be a good fit for us, that's my thought, I guess, to that comment.
Yeah. I agree with you, because to me, that person, whoever it may be, is here every day on a daily basis. And how many times each one of us commission, when we go there and we have an issue, tell you, well, how do we know? We're not there all the time.
Yeah.
We just hear bits and pieces, and how do we make a judgment? You got somebody now that's here that can, if we have trouble with one department or some person, you've got somebody that's here that can tell us what's going on.
Right.
And you know what? I myself, I don't know, I'm not gonna speak for you, but I'm not gonna lose touch in a portfolio. I don't take a portfolio. I wanna keep touching with our employees.
And I think you need to in order to
Yes.
do your jobs well, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's part of your role. So I don't want there to be a perception that then as commissioners you become any less engaged, because that would not be the case at all, in my opinion. I think that level of engagement would need to remain or even increase, like I said, because now you've got somebody that's maybe a better liaison. I don't know. That would be my perception.
And I had a conversation even with Nick Siegelman from the city at one point, and I talked to him and he said, you know, I can be the bad guy sometimes when it comes to budget time, but I know what's going on in the departments. And so I'm the one that based on what the county or for them, the city needs, instead of us having every department come here and then trying to do the best that we can at budget time. It helps us, I think, indefinite that
When
way.
Danny and I talked to him, we sat down one day, and Nick, and I'll never forget, because he said there was some issues because he came in and he moved people around. You know, this, like you said, this one's a little bit here and this one, he says, that the city office, or what do you call it? He says, it doesn't look like anything like when I came.
Right.
And that's what intrigued me about it. He knows the strength of his people.
Yeah.
And you get the most out of your production, out of your people, if you're a good administrator.
Yeah.
And that's what Tanya and I visited about, was we were looking at, should we be trying to shift work now or later? And we kind of decided that it'd be better to bring an administrator in and let them restructure as they see fit. You know, I think we have support staff that could be utilized in probably a whole new way. And if you have that administrator who can say, okay, I need you over here, it's a lot easier than a department head saying, okay, well, they're not very busy right now, so I can let them go. Nobody ever really wants to say somebody isn't very busy because they're scared.
Well, right, you
know.
you want to maintain that level, that status quo in your department, and I get it, but I just think that we are missing opportunities, for efficiency
Right.
overall, and I think that this role might help us identify those.
Another round I look at is that grant writing. I still think we're missing a lot of grants. When you talk to, look at the Association of County when they talked to us, and about when they went to the United States one, and how many grants they, or some money they come back with. There's money out there. I think we're missing it.
Yeah. I didn't, that's in here somewhere.
Yeah.
Right, but when I was writing that part, I left it somewhat, I didn't put a lot in there because I wasn't exactly sure how much to put in, but it's talked about anyways, mentioned, so.
It says grant writing, pursue grant dollars, writing and monitoring progress of grant funds is
Yeah,
become available.
just kind of a general statement, yeah.
And that's good enough. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, I think we'd still want to meet with our department heads, have them come into meetings. We don't want to stop any of that.
I agree, I wouldn't want that to change, I don't think, because I think that just helps you always have a better understanding, and I really do think that employees in county government look at all of you as their bosses overall, right? Like you're the leaders overall, even though they have a direct supervisor, most of them. I think that it's still really important for them to interact with you as commissioners, and that has a really big impact on them, and your support and your engagement with them matters. And so I wouldn't want that to change. I guess personally, I think that that's still really important to maintain that, and for them to know that just because there's maybe another person in the middle now, that it doesn't mean that you care any less about them and how they're doing and how their department's doing and the challenges they're facing and, all of the above.
I would actually like to see an administrator encourage, based on what they're seeing happening amongst the departments, if something positive happened, to encourage them to come present to us, you know, what that
Right.
was, or to
Yeah.
recognize so that they do feel more welcome and encouraged to come. You know, even if it's now go back to day meetings and it's in their day, hey, stop in at the commission, I put you on the agenda for some, you know, so I think that could actually be in our favor to see them even more.
Right.
I also think it would bring uniformity to the courthouse. You know, have that one person to report to. I can't imagine how frustrating it must be for the department to have a constant change of commissioners. And you have to work with all these different
Yeah.
personalities. And I know they would still be doing that, but they would have that one go-to person.
Right.
You
That they
know,
can learn and trust in and trust
Right.
each other. And it's. I think it's time to move forward with it, that's for sure.
Mr. Chair,
We're looking for a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
so I really like Amy's idea of encouraging them to come in and, you know, talk to us. And I just agree with whatever you guys all say. I think it would improve things a lot.
Well, if you're looking for a motion, I've been a very big advocate of this administrator. I'll
Yep.
make a motion, we move forward with this job description of Tanya's. And I think there's a level of pay on whatever. I don't know if you want to mention that, but
Back to that, yeah. I don't know if I want
Do we
to-
need to do this first,
Yeah, let's get a
Yeah.
second, then we'll.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a second, any further discussion?
I just wanna commend Tanya and Christy and whoever else worked on this. Is a really excellent description, and I think you guys did a great job.
Tanya
Yep.
did most of the work.
I can speak to the pay scale quickly if you'd like me to. So as you know, we've talked about this before, we're sort of paving a new road, right? In terms of a county of our size, having a position of this nature. I think it's awesome and I'm excited, but I think having said that, there isn't a lot of apples to apples relevant market data out there, right? So our pay plan is based on, you know, this market that we've identified. We have 7 counties that we typically use. None of them, of course, have a county administrator. I looked at that and just as like a ballpark, I looked at the auditor, knowing that we have it combined with the auditor. So I use that as sort of a benchmark, you know, keeping it out there. And then I pulled, the state of North Dakota has labor market data available to us, you know, so they have reports that we can download, and they're available every April, of course. So I'll get a new one next month, but the one that comes out every April is for the year prior. So the most recent data I have is from April of 2022, but it's using 2021 data. When I was looking at that, they break it down by region as well. So they take, you know, east, west regions, and then they remove the metros. So like we are in the east region, non-metros, so Fargo and Grand Forks are removed. I find that to be fairly relevant for most of our market research. I feel like it's, depending on the job that I'm looking at, you know, it puts us in the ballpark pretty darn well most of the time. So I looked at just the manager's line for that. And I felt pretty confident with where we landed with that. I applied the 4% COLA that you as a commission applied last year, knowing this is actually 2021 data. And that's how I landed with this survey, or this scale, I guess. Looking at several resources, I felt pretty good about where this landed. I feel like it works within our internal equity as well, within our overall pay system within the county. You know, you're looking at your top officials like state's attorney and those positions. I feel like it fit okay. I felt okay about that. So just as an explanation as to how I arrived at those figures, to be transparent about it.
Any other discussion?
Well, I'd just like to say that, I mean, I of course was concerned, I'm sure as you guys were, to bring on an administrator and where to get the money from, right, to pay this administrator, but I think we can swing this. When I look at this pay range, I feel that we can definitely swing it based on what Chris has been earning and where we would be. Say we came in middle of the road, yeah, we're gonna pay a little more, but they also have a lot more responsibilities, so
Right.
I do feel that we could make this work.
Any further discussion? No, we'll call for the vote. Christie,
Yes.
Ernie,
yes.
Karen,
Yes,
Amy,
Yes.
Myself, yes, motion carried.
Okay?
Can I just?
Yep.
So the motion was to move forward with the position. There was no mention of pay scales, so that was just a general conversation. There's no motion in regards to the pay plan. Just
Right.
asking.
Point, I don't know if you need one, but in relation to the pay plan.
Okay.
I think you look at who's qualified and then.
Yeah.
Just like any other job interview.
Yeah,
Where are you gonna advertise?
that, I love your input on that. So, you know, our standard, you know, things are, if you do local, you can do papers, we do the social media, we do job service, we do association of counties, but this is a unique position, and so, do you want me to, you know, spend the money to do some of the bigger outlets? Grand Forks Herald and Inform, Jobs HQ, excuse me, I think that's what they're called, at the Jobs HQ. They are pricey, just be really honest, right? It's not, it's an expense. I'm trying to recall the last ones that we did on like Jobs HQ might have been the highway superintendent position. I think it might have been Jason's. And it ended up that we didn't get many apps on it, if I'm being honest. We can post it through Indeed. I can't though, unfortunately, personally, because they flag me as like a recruiter type person so I can't use my email and post it. If we can have an internal email at like a Walsh County, you know, email to do it, then we could get it posted on Indeed as well. Which is just silly. I've been frustrated with that, but I can't, my email flags it, so I can't. But if you want me to, we can do that. We can do it on Indeed. Where else would you like me to post it?
Cost.
Right?
You remember what it cost?
Shooting from memory, so don't hold me to it, but 800 and some for Jobs HQ for a couple weeks. I think it was $800 and some, $850, something like that.
And Mary Hodak, I mean, you've worked with
I
her
work
and
with her frequently,
nationally,
yep.
she can do it as well.
Yep, I do all of our jobs through Mary Hodak, so, and she's phenomenal, she's really good and helpful. She's with North Dakota Job Service, so that'll go, and she's great about, she just emailed me, was it yesterday or late last week? Because she had looked on our website and noticed that there was a couple that I hadn't sent to her, so she's awesome to work with. So she's like, do you want me to add these? One of them was JDA, which I've not been involved with, so, she's gonna add JDA too, so, but yeah, anywhere else that you want me to?
Do we wait on the Jobs HQ and start, you know, to maybe try to do the Indeed and job and just see what happens for?
Is there a state one? Like state government or?
So North Dakota Association of Counties has one. So, and I've been putting many of our jobs on there, and that one doesn't cost us anything either. There's a state job board, but that's for state jobs, you know, so we don't have access to post on that, through the state of North Dakota. However, most of their jobs are also linked to like the Indeed and all those other places. Facebook Jobs has like you can pay for ads on Facebook, through their jobs function. I've known of one person that just like happened to find a job that way. But because it's based on your geographic location, you know, so it'll pop up if you have, you know, work experience related to this, it might just pop up randomly as you're scrolling. We've never actually paid for that other than through, we have had a member or a subscription before to something called HireClick, which is through Valley News Live out of Fargo, and so that one does cover quite a bit. We've done HireClick before. We're not currently paying for HireClick. We had received a really good deal where it was like $99 a month for unlimited job postings. Ron actually was using it for a while and receiving quite a few apps, but I don't think we're paying for it anymore because we just had, you know, we had a kind of a rush of vacancies, and then we just decided it wasn't really necessarily worth it anymore. But that one is pretty good if I reach out to him about offering us a deal, because that's how I got the $99 a month, but it was just for 3 months initially. So if you want to, I can look at that.
Personally, I feel we need to get this job out there,
Yeah.
get it advertised.
Yeah.
We're in a short time frame to get this position filled. So I mean, I understand what the cost and maybe waiting, but I don't know if we can afford to wait. I think we need to get it out to as many people as we
I
can.
agree. We're gonna have to cast a pretty big net on this one.
Right. I think we're
Yep.
just gonna,
And your talent pool will get better the more you get out there.
is Indeed kind of like a LinkedIn? I guess I'm not even really familiar with
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Similar, somewhat similar.
Yeah, it is, and it's a really big job board. I have a
Hard to
love
read
hate,
through.
yeah, I have a love hate relationship with it, honestly. Like I have found personally that when we have used it, Ron's office has used it before, I know, and I believe like Sherry, when she filled in the treasurer's office, when she filled her deputy treasurer position, she had that one up. I think Ed's used it in the past. We tend to get a fair number of applications that are just people going through the motions and they're not at all qualified, right? So not a good fit really for what we're looking for. I feel like we get a lot higher percentage of those types of apps through Indeed. Every now and then you get a great one. But your percentage of ones that aren't worth looking at is higher in my experience.
Yeah.
Use your judgment, I would say, and get us out there in the best exposure you know how.
And I would like to see this go into the paper. I know at our department head meeting, it was kind of decided maybe not to put some of the support roles or different positions into the paper, but I think this one needs to get in the paper. I don't know how you guys feel, but.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody, maybe somebody, I know the younger generation maybe doesn't get the paper, but maybe somebody's mom or grandma's looking at the paper and they relay the information. I just really think we need to advertise it well.
I think it would be good for the public to know that we're proceeding
Looking,
down this road.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
Timeline, how long what sort of initial deadline do you want me to use?
March 18th.
It's March 21st right now. Are you looking at like middle of April initially? Do you want what do you want me to do?
What's your
April?
gut feeling?
Well, I think you can't go for a job like this, I don't know if you should go anything less than April 14th, which is like 2.5 weeks,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's gonna take you some time to get it out there.
3.5,
so.
excuse me, that's
Yeah.
actually 3.5 weeks, but. So you could, if April 7th would be 2.5 weeks, but that's coming right up on Easter weekend, isn't it? So I think that's a bad time to have a deadline. I think April 14th. And I know
And then you got a commission meeting the 18th, at least we know if we have any
that's true, yeah,
qualifications, and then we could update it too.
okay, maybe that's a good, I think I'll go with that then.
Yep.
So do we have a game plan if we don't have it filled by the time Chris leaves?
That was gonna be my next
Fine.
point to bring up.
Punch.
I think, Christy and Chris and I talked a little bit about that, but I think then we need to just have Chris sit down and give us a list of those things that are, these are things that nobody else knows how to do, right? We talked about that when we met, about several of the areas of her job that, people have been exposed to or know how to handle a lot of it. And that's, that's kind of why, deputies exist, right? Like deputies are meant to be there in order to cover a lot of things when the main official is not in. And so there's a fair number of things that those in her office have had exposure to, I feel like, so, but I think then that if we just can have you, Chris, look at the areas of your job that maybe nobody else has been cross-trained on, right? Those would be areas of concern for me. And then maybe we need to make kind of a game plan as to, if we don't get it filled, who is going to be the person to at least know something about these areas? I think that's maybe the best way to proceed right now. And it's crummy timing because they're smack dab in the middle of a lot of software training right now, but I think that's just in order to assure continuity of operations, I think we have to do that, so. That would be my recommendation.
I agree with that.
All right, anything else for Tanya?
Yeah, I had a couple things.
Yep.
An update on performance appraisals that have been completed or not completed and timesheet status.
Yes, so performance evals, I just checked the system again today. We have in the system, there are 4 department heads that are not yet, I don't show anything in the system for them, 2 elected, 2 non-elected, and then 3 in another department. And I think that was an oversight, it was the highway department. And so Jason had asked me about it a week or 2 ago, I think I've got them all done, would you double check? And I forgot to check until I was looking today, and there were 3 that got missed. So he's aware of those and gonna take care of them right away. So other than that, it's a couple department heads, so.
So it's the commissioners.
It's the commissioners.
The commissioners, so.
Yep.
I never got a copy of Sandra's back.
Okay, if you just, I think I saw you just depending on the date that you did it, I haven't sent them out and downloaded them in a couple weeks. So I've got a whole slew of them that need to be updated and sent out to everybody again. So
So it was done back in,
I think it showed end of February. Yep, I just saw that.
I know
today
I was
when
late, but I did do it, but I haven't seen it.
No, but there's a whole, I don't think I've done them since like that last week in February. I've not downloaded that whole batch of them, and there's about 10 more that have happened since that time. I think I got through number 42, and I think there's 53 done now. So yeah, you're correct, it's done, but I didn't do my part yet on it, so.
So but that just means they did the review
All that
online, they have
means-
not met with the employee face to face, and that was supposed to be due February 28th. Right,
Correct.
end of February.
Correct. So there's 10-ish probably at least that maybe haven't finished that piece of it, because nobody's even asked me. Other than, nobody's asked me for those that are missing, other than I should correct myself, Jason did ask me to check, so Jason asked too, but yeah.
I'm just wondering if, I'm not sure on my end if I have one. I'm just kind of wondering if there would be a commissioner I would, or even if I don't yet, but if I could kind of partner up with, follow with them just to see the process for.
You should be this coming year, when they transfer portfolios, we always have the old and new commissioner do the performance review or eval together,
Okay,
is what we've started, so that there's just an easier transition that way, so you could sit in them,
okay.
unless there's somebody this year, I don't know, maybe whoever you took over for, maybe it hasn't been completed,
Yeah,
I'm not
that's
sure.
a good question. It makes me wonder if that's some of those missing ones, honestly. I don't know. I'd have to get the portfolio list from you again. It's like the current list. But that, I can follow up with
Can you
that.
let me, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
It'd be hard for her to do a performance if she hasn't been.
Yeah, it would have to be
Mhm.
the two commissioners, like Christy said, that's where two of you do it together, and then it helps the new person
Right.
learn as well,
You only have
so.
to teach me once, but if you.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think I only had the highway department, didn't I? Most of mine are all boards and everything else. I don't have any more.
I'll look at the portfolio list and I'll just send each of you a message or
Yeah,
something if there's
sure.
some that you maybe aren't aware of.
Okay,
You had another thing for time?
Yes.
Update on time.
Timesheet, yep. So we had talked a while ago about, redoing our timesheet system when the commission made a decision to not go ahead with that executive time on our software plan. So I have worked on a Excel, I'm just using an Excel spreadsheet to do a better job tracking our time. I've got the standard spreadsheet done. It's gonna calculate everything for all the employees. It's gonna do all the work for them. The only thing I have to still do is update one for our law enforcement people, because it calculates it differently for them because it's a 28-day timesheet. So I haven't done that one yet. I think I can use the same one I've got and just modify it to meet those overtime regulations. So that isn't going to take me very long to do. I just haven't taken that step yet to do it. But I would like to see us roll that out then in April. And so I've looked at a couple of old timesheets and punched in the numbers to make sure it works. But I might, I should have done it before the auditor's office got into training, honestly. That was my part for not getting that done before then, because they're really busy right now. But I was hoping that Sandra would just walk through with me and see if she sees anything that doesn't look like it's gonna work. So if I can catch her on an off day, I might try to do that, but I feel pretty good about the one that I have done and how it's working, so. Yeah. Any questions on that?
Well, pretty much time out. Take a 5-minute break.
Okay, is Tanya all done?
Okay.
thanks, Tanya.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah,
Tanya.
thank
Thanks
you.
for your quick action on the administrative. positions.
Yes, absolutely. I can smell it. Smell it as soon as I walk through the door.
Gonna smell it for a few days, I think.
Yep, that's great. That's that.
You wanna take off, but the Keystone pipeline is on your agenda later, is that?
Oh, that's-
Is there just something not working or?
No, it's just
Update.
every year when they pay us, they like to see a breakdown of where all the
Break,
tax.
I read it as Keystone pipeline breakdown.
Yeah.
So I was reading that something that was broken down on the system.
Sorry, no,
Okay,
it's.
so then I don't care about that.
You don't.
Well, it just depends on what it was. That was what I was kind of, but
And it's a 30-second blurb.
blurb, so, yeah,
So
okay.
you're good to go.
And
Thanks, Brent.
Yep.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get that in the paper.
Sure.
$750,000 that comes into the county for that.
Yeah,
Think of
that's-
those counties out west that have multiple pipelines, everything.
What's that?
$750,000 coming out of that Keystone pipeline, just take the ones out west.
The best thing, the best thing that happened to this county is when they, that guy wouldn't get
Really?
that pumping station into Lost County.
Oh, yeah.
That almost double what we're getting. Yeah.
Oh, what?
At bottoms. Yeah, that's,
Tanya Bowen, I told her to help herself with some bologna if she wanted to. She said she could smell it. I said, how can you not?
I'm excited. I hope we get some good applicants.
Yeah, but you know, it's. I always think, and I use Christie as a good example, when she was at the FSA office, the way she handled. And I'm not picking on women, but all the women there and stuff and handled it, and even other employees come in and it was never really an issue. You know, it takes a gifted person to handle a bunch of people and get them to get along.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's okay to own that it's not your thing, you know.
And I'll face it. Some people can take some criticism, some can't.
Well, some people know how to
Handle people.
handle it.
Yep.
That's.
And that's.
Don't bring that up in front of her and she'll be like, oh, follow the commission and be an administrator.
What? What did I say?
I was
Well,
on
you
you
manage.
when you're talking about the administrator, how when I was on the board, how you handle the staff at the FSA office.
Oh,
Danny, you know,
oh.
they're a problem and it takes gifted people to handle a bunch of people.
To work together as a team,
Yeah,
but sometimes you do have to be the bad guy.
yeah.
And delegating, I mean,
You have to delegate.
Cause you look at that job description and it's gonna
Yeah.
scare people off that do not have the.
It is. I hope they see the word delegate in it, because really what we're looking is to restructure.
People around and be efficient.
And it might even be within department heads, might not just be support staff.
And
So,
have a tough back.
but I think we could get a really good flow going up here.
I
I think it could work really well.
Well, we back on? Karen, you there?
I never shot anything.
Yep.
All right, we'll resume the meeting. Keystone Pipeline.
So every year, generally, you guys like to see a review of where. What Keystone paid in taxes and where the money went. I just kind of picked, this is the way we've been doing it for a couple of years. It's not every entity that gets funds, but some of the bigger ones. So it's more or less just an FYI.
Do you know how long they get these funds for, Chris? How many years?
As long as the pipeline's there and paying.
They'll continue to get the funds.
Yep.
So it keeps some of those
Schools
like
alive.
for real,
Oh,
like.
absolutely,
Fire departments are ready.
yeah.
Yeah.
look at Valley Edinburgh with that pipe, that pump right there by Edinburgh. Look at
No.
unbelievable.
Mhm.
It's almost like if you talk to anybody up in Langdon with that wind farm, what that
Yeah,
school
oh,
is.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just a win-win, man.
Did you say this is not paid out every year?
Yes, it
It
is.
is paid out every year,
Yeah.
okay, I misunderstood you, sorry.
So, yes, I didn't, okay, you do have last year. Look at, we gained almost $39,000 from last year. Was $497,276, and this year is $535,897.
Mhm.
A nice shot in the arm.
Be nice to see that in the paper. All right. Yeah, left on the delinquent taxes, is that why he was here?
No, just another FYI, just that delinquent taxes went out on February 10th, we sent out 276 notices. The 22nd Friday is the deadline. If they don't pay off the courtesy notice, we'll add another $50. just a little bit of history for you. Some of the names that were on there 25 years ago when I started are still on there every year.
Oh, my God.
Just 276, like do you know what, is that pretty average?
It was up from last year a little bit.
And they don't get the notice until they have not paid 3 years of taxes, is that correct?
Yeah.
So once they're behind 3 years, they get a notice.
Well, I think the treasurer's office does send some type of, but that's on their part, that doesn't fall on us.
And then when they come in to pay the taxes, they don't pay all 3 years, they're not required to pay all 3 years.
They just have to pay the third year to keep it from going into foreclosure.
Interesting to see that list. It is available on it, drop.
Yeah, it's a public record.
All right,
So yeah, that more or less is just, so we've sent it to the clerk of court and the treasurer's office for liens and judgments. And we'll start processing the certifieds late April, first part of May to go out.
and then the point. Okay. We'll move on to the additions. You got all of yours answered?
The only other one I had was that CPA review, but. Okay, you want to go with that
Yeah,
now?
go ahead.
Okay, so it's just, I just attended the Teams meeting that they had with the Tyler software, the other day with Chris and Sandra and Ed. And, I just kind of wanted to get more up to date on it, so I attended the Teams meeting, and in that meeting, one of the, Dan from Tyler software, he was talking about, and Chris, you can help me out with this if I mess it up, but he was talking about the accounting codes, and they're having a little bit of trouble, or not a little bit, they're having quite a bit of trouble deciphering our accounting codes, bringing them over into their system. And what he suggested was that we actually have a CPA come in and review our accounting codes. Is that correct, Chris? Would you say that's correct? He suggested that we should do that. I mean, we're probably using accounting codes the way it was set up 30 years ago, and it has not changed. So we're probably behind the times. Would you agree? Or maybe it's just how it's always been done, so it hasn't been changed.
But if there was an issue with our accounting codes, I feel like the state auditors would say something.
Right, I agree, because your state audit has been good, and he was surprised to hear that. But he said he recommended this to other counties as well, didn't he? Bowman, when they switched over, and I don't remember the other county he said.
Well, so I can reach out to Keith Erickson with the state auditors and find out what his thinking is on it. If he
That's
says
a
go
good
for
plan.
it, then maybe you want to do it, but
I think that's a
if
good
he
place to
thinks
start.
that we don't need it, I don't know why you would want us to spend the money.
Right, I just didn't know, it concerned me,
Yeah,
you know, when you hear
yeah.
somebody, because like we talked. I don't wanna say this the wrong way, but when you're setting up a new software system. If we're giving them information that they're not able to decipher, it's like garbage going in, you're gonna get garbage back out, right?
Right.
So that's my main concern is that, and I'm not saying that what you have is bad, but they're saying they can't really decipher it, is my understanding. So that's why he's thinking, oh, you need to have a CPA come in and take a look at this. Well, that's kind of red flag to me when I hear that we should maybe have a CPA look at it, but I like your thought. You know, our state audit was good, so apparently whatever we're doing right.
Yeah.
So maybe check with them first, and then we can bring it up at another meeting to see if we need to go one step further. But I would rather pay the money if we have to, especially with somebody new coming in now. I wouldn't want to come in as a new administrator and take over auditor duties and find out if there's an issue. I'm not saying there's an issue, but he just had some concerns, so.
And I sent him several reports, more than what he probably asked for as well, so maybe
Okay.
maybe that will shed some light on things for him.
Right, hopefully, yeah,
That's a good communication tool. I
right,
mean, if they're talking together instead of
yes.
fighting.
Yeah, they have to understand the data that's coming in to put it into their software and give it back to us, and we could have a whole mess.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know the number side, but if the audit software can be different than what they're looking for in audit too. I mean, sometimes those software things are very complicated, complex, and there are certain things they need that wouldn't that would be different than the audit side of it. So I don't know if Heath is familiar with Tyler or his work. That, you know, could be another question for him too, that he might know, you know, that they need something different.
Exactly, and maybe we could even reach out to Bowman. I know you said the Bowman auditor was on leave this week, but if we could maybe reach out to Bowman and find out what they found. Since I think he said there was issues there too, and that they had a CPA come in, or no?
I don't think they had a CPA come in, but they
Renumbered.
redid everything,
Right.
but it took them 3 weeks to do it.
Mhm.
And so a couple weeks ago, when we asked and they said they thought they could work with this, we didn't do any more with it.
Right, and then we found that they couldn't.
Then they came into roadblocks further down the road, so.
Right, and what they're telling us is if we don't get the information to them, they have many other people scheduled. So we gotta be Johnny on the spot and get this to them, or we get shoved back at the end of their schedule. And that means we'd have to redo the contract, or they'd have to redo the contract with the county, which would cost the county money. So,
We need to do it right. I mean,
Right.
yeah, we need to give them what they need, no matter what that is. So I guess.
Thanks for all the work you're doing with that.
yeah,
So I'll reach out to Heath and
sounds good, good starting point.
Get back to Christine or, yeah.
Thank you.
We'll move on to Ernie's list.
I'll start with the water board. I went to their meeting on Tuesday, this morning, and I just showed up real quick. They asked me to contact a lawyer for the Nelson County issue. I contacted him, he's retired, and contacted his old office. They're too busy, but he gave me 3 names and I gave them to the water board. So hopefully they do something about it. One was Gibbons out of Candu, one was Fleming out of Cavalier, and the other one was Osped and Twitchell out of West Fargo that are very good with water. And I told the water board when I handed it to them, I said, find somebody and let's move it forward. So just wanted to get you an update. So we'll see what the water board does.
And
I
this
think
concerns
The Nelson County and the pumping.
conflict of
Yep.
interest between the two
Yep.
lawyers, yeah.
So I told him, I said, I didn't call any of these lawyers. I called the first one and I said, it's up to you guys. Let's move forward on this and get something done.
So familiar with it all?
Yeah, they're pumping, I mean, you were talking about it last, or one of our first. One pumping when it's flooding or not turning off.
There's some agreements there and they can't decide who's, you know, it's complicated. So we said, go after them and stop it already.
Walsh County Water Board lawyer is the same one that they have up there,
Oh.
so it's.
Danny Gossett, he's, so couldn't use him, so. And I don't know about Fleming,
Oh, sorry.
because he's sort of done, I think, some stuff with Walsh County and had some conflicts, so. I think it's either gonna probably be Gibbons or Onstead with Twitchell. And maybe it's good somebody to get somebody just out of the.
Were you receptive to it?
The water board? Well, I don't know, they stuck it in their party in the pocket and they had to go to a meeting and I just went, looked at them and I said, guys, get it done. That's all I said. So we'll see. I'm gonna check on them. They know I'm gonna be looking because I've asked them almost every time.
Yeah, I'm glad you are because it's an
It
issue.
needs to stop.
Well, and
The
I told,
problem is they're pumping into Mattochick and our citizens are seeing them pump into Mattochick when we know darn well it's above the level where they need to stop at a certain level.
And there's no enforcement.
And there's no, well,
Well, they
the
got the
person
switch.
that, they get to turn the switch on them
and then we get
from
all,
Nelson County.
and I volunteered you guys, I says, us commissioners are sick and tired of getting questions why they're pumping. Gotta
I'm
stop.
sick and tired of seeing it.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
wrong. It is wrong.
So the other issue with the water board, which isn't an issue, I would recommend we don't do bills next, April 4th meeting. Cause at 4 o'clock, there's a meeting down here on snagging and clearing of the Park River and they need 3 commissioners here.
I think we declared that last meeting.
Yeah, and I just want to bring it up. I got a deal on there, so, just to remind you guys, at 4 o'clock, there's a snag and clear meeting down here. So,
so if you're done with the meeting by
Yeah.
5, you can.
well, if we are, you know, those sometimes get long, they're on, if we're done by 5, we can do them, you know. And if not, I guess we'll just stay down there, yeah. Yeah, 4 o'clock. They include the townships of Lambton, Golden, Dundee, Kensington, Glenwood, Fertile, and Grafton. The middle and south branches. So.
Housing authority?
Yeah, housing authority, the only thing I got on that is they're looking for a board member, and I thought I'd get it in the minutes. They're looking for somebody in that Edinburgh, Hoople, Park River area. So if anybody, I don't know how else we can advertise it or what, I said I mentioned at the commission meeting that we do need a board member from that area.
Edinburgh.
Edinburgh, Goupel, Parker, that out west.
Is Charles Milky done?
No, there was a Milky, hey, I drew a blank. Leanne,
Charles Milky.
no,
Oh,
she's the township secretary. Can't even think of her name right now.
Sandra, no. Judy Keely?
No, Leanne, well, it
That was-
doesn't matter.
board?
Yeah, on the board. She was on the board and she was.
Oh,
sort of
Leah.
Leah Sherman, there you go. She was representing Park River and got it and so that's why they want to stay in that area. So. So that's enough on the water board. The other thing, Ron ain't here, but I was gonna bring it up. I heard on the radio and it's for all the entities like ambulance, firemen. And I wonder if Brent for EMT, the North Dakota Soybean Council has a grant that they'll give to all entities that are involved in sort of public,
Service.
safety service, $1,000 grant for tires. And Barnes County, I was gonna have Ron talk to him, Barnes County did it and he was on there and they just love the tires, it's Goodyear and it's a program, so. Each entity, let's say our ambulance or firemen and that, they each could apply for this thing and they get $1,000 to replace tires on a vehicle. Well, why not use it? So, and I
saw
gotta.
that too. They say they last longer, the
Yep.
tires last
And
longer.
they're made out of soybeans, so that's why the northdakota.org, that's the website, northdakotasoybean.org. That you.
Mr. Chairman, that's pretty interesting because today was Ag Day in the Great Hall. And when I was coming from one of my meetings, the Soybean Council was set up right at the end and they had a couple tires there and they had some tennis shoes made of this. But I didn't have a chance to read any of the stuff. So,
I saw it on Ag Week last week, where I saw it.
Oh, I heard them.
Yeah, and then it's over, so.
So how do we convey this to everybody?
Well, that's why I brought it up here, and I hope the city ambulances, whoever firemen's get it, because it was worded in like public safety or whatever. The grant could go for them for.
When I send out the unapproved minutes to the department heads, I can make a note
Yep.
to them.
And like I said, it said they go on that northdakotasoybean.org to apply. But I don't know what tires are on these littler cars or whatever, but $1,000 would probably buy 2 sets or a set and a half.
Yep. Yep.
Right. Oh, the only other one I had is legislative bills. Karen, I was sort of curious. I said, I saw some of those votes and I'm just wondering what was in your mind when you voted to not go ahead with the PERS.
we haven't voted on that yet.
Well, what was on that 1040 where it voted there? You see, and I don't understand it all. It's subcommittees or whatever, where they say.
Oh, okay, so you're not understanding it.
That's why I'm asking.
The House voted for their version, okay?
Okay,
I'm not sure what the question is then.
well, the way I read it.
And
everything
then
else
the Senate has their version now. And
Okay.
it's going to, it'll be in conference committee and go from there.
So the House, I think it was a House number, was it 1040 I looked at?
Yep,
So why was that? To me, it sort of said something about move forward and go to a different, instead of funding the old PERS. And there was I think in both bills that I sort of looked at were, I don't remember the exact numbers, 12 for and 78 against. And I'm thinking, this is one of our best, and I'm worried about the counties and Jason said he was up. They got a lot of feedback and to me, it was a great recruiting tool for us for that PERS. And I'd hate to see that get shoved across and go to something. I know it costs a lot of money and they've been talking about this for, I don't know, Northeast 9 brought it up 5 years ago, but boy, when you look at counties and us here, that is one of we always talk about recruiting and we got a great system and our retirement and everything else. I'd hate to see us lose that. So I guess I'm just looking for some feedback and I don't understand the bills. That's why I brought it up. I don't know if you get to vote on it or Senate that does or whatever, but boy, when you look at all the entities in the states here and that, and you talk to some of our highway department and the state guys, I talked to even some of the guys at that DOT meeting yesterday, and they just, they can't figure it out. They say it's a great recruiting tool for them and they'd hate to see it go.
Well, there's, you know, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And whoever's in the PERS right now will be funded till they are dead. Nobody is taking anything away from anybody who's in PERS till it changes in 2025. So if you're in PERS right now, your pension will be funded, okay?
Yeah.
The only thing that could possibly change is a defined benefit or a contribution benefit. And I mean, that's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Some people, you know, are against the defined contribution because they will have to contribute a little bit. What people are on right now, they are getting some of it, or they are contributing some, but in the other one, they will have to contribute more. In the new one, if it changes, you'll be able to take it with you. At this point, you can't. I mean, there's pros and cons to each one. And nowadays, I mean, you can say that it's a recruiting tool, but look at how much overturn we have had just in Walsh County by not staying. And some of that is because of the pay, but nowadays with young people, they aren't staying in their jobs for even 20 years. So that's why we're trying to go away from it. And actually, if they do that new plan, the state will match more money if they put more money in. They could get up to 14% back into their pension if that was the case. So.
Mr. Chairman, I guess I just want to say on the flip side of it, although I am not aware of the PERS in the county, I mean, I'm becoming more aware, but coming from a healthcare background, you know, I've never worked in a position as a healthcare provider where we had anything more than a 401k. And then you had anything, like, I understand that it's a recruiting tool, but I think becoming more creative and looking at other solutions, whether it's more time off, where people are looking for more days off, more, you know, it sounds like this was moving that direction for a long time, and it's something we have to move forward to and find ways to pivot, because it's just like I said, as a healthcare provider, I pay more insurance premiums working at the hospital. You know, there barely is a benefit that way. So I don't believe that we fully won't recruit new people. I think we just are gonna have to look at it differently and be more creative when it comes to what the writing is on the wall.
And
Well, and it's not sustainable either. The state can't continue that. If they, especially if they don't close the defined benefit in 2025, they could never sustain putting that money in there. I mean, a lot of people don't have, and I'm, believe me, I'm for our employees. Don't get me wrong, because everybody who is working now for our county will be receiving that. Nothing will get taken away from them.
I guess nobody really questioned me on that. It was the recruiting and moving forward. That's, you know, everybody understood that the benefits that stay there and until you die, they're there and stuff. It was, the questions I got from a bunch of people is, why aren't they doing it and keeping it? Because it's such a good deal. So that's why.
Of course it's a good deal. You know what else they're trying? Another bill that came up and it got killed was for the political subs to start putting more money into it. That means counties. Well, that, you know, I didn't vote for that. And 30, let's see, I think if I can remember right, in the state last year, there was 37% turnover. So, I mean, young people just aren't staying in their jobs either, so it's not done. It's not
Okay.
done. Just like
And
with
I don't know-
property and income tax, that's all still on the table. And I am trying to do the best that I can for Walsh County with that.
Well, and like I said, sometimes I don't understand when the bills get caught between the Senate and House, what's there, or when it changes or amendments and, I just sort of, because I get questions, I ask you, because you're there now, so.
Yeah, I would like more feedback. I don't get a lot of feedback. For some reason, my power is just about to go dead, but, okay, so.
The only other one I had is on not, base, I'm getting mixed up here, the legacy buckets. So that one that they're voting for, to moving the money out of the one bucket,
The one
That hasn't come to us yet, Ernie.
that was from this, I think it was from the Senate side.
Yeah, that hasn't, and I
I
mean,
just-
we aren't in favor of that.
Okay, and I wanted to point that out, because you know what, you know, Karen, you sit here with us and you listen to Brian about our bridges and everything else, and I'm going, you know what? You're just moving our money and getting it later. And if you remember when the oil quit and then all of a sudden they started at the top and worked down the buckets again, I said, counties and townships, and now you look at, and I listened to that guy talking about snow today from Richland County, he said, they can't absorb the budget, and he said, if this thing goes through that what was presented today, he looked at it, and he said, we'll get $55,000 is all, and he sort of laughed at it, and he said, that's just a touch in the bucket. He said, well, I don't know where we're gonna get the funding.
Well,
You know,
is
I-
that for snow removal?
Yeah, and I'm just using that as an example, we always talk county here, but I'm concerned of our little townships and everything. You know, the roads and, you know, yourself, we got trucks here and farmers, and I'm not picking on them, and the roads just weren't built, and I says, how do these little townships? And well, we're seeing it in the county with roads, and how do we sustain it without getting any more money back? So it scares me when I see a bucket changed a little bit, and all of a sudden it's gonna be so many $1 million more before we see what we get.
Mhm.
Once they start that, I think they're gonna do it more and more, and then we're just sitting here in a handbag going, God, could you give us money? And we appreciate everything we get, but I wanna let them know that we need a lot more.
Yep, but don't forget when property tax talk comes up, that the state has given us a lot of property tax cuts. And that was through social service. And through a couple other things, stuff that we don't see, we don't get the money, but are taken away. So this year, schools will get more money, so that money won't be taken back from property, out of property taxes. The state is gonna be paying, I believe, 25% more of the property taxes, and that burden will then be taken off the counties, because the counties won't have to ask that now. It'll go straight from the state to the schools, and it won't be taken out of the county.
But we're not gonna get any more money. It'll be just taken out of the county, and that's my point. It's great that they're giving property tax, but what does it do for the county or township budget? We don't get any more money to help us with roads and bridges. It's great
But
that the taxpayers.
But we're not taking money we're not taking part of the property taxes and giving it to the schools.
But how does that change our budget locally with our roads and bridges?
Well, Ernie, we're talking about property tax relief for our constituents.
I get
So,
that, and it's great,
I mean-
it's great, but in the long run, does it help the county or the townships with their road, bridges, jails, anything else? It really don't. Yeah, you're
Well-
giving it to the taxpayers, which is great, but the county doesn't see any more money in their coffers to help with the other situations. I guess that's all I got.
Is that everything?
Yeah, I think so. I think the laundry list is done.
Yes.
Ed, did you have anything? No. Okay. Chris?
Who's on the JDA board?
Me.
Amy and Karen.
So, did you guys, is Angel contracting for the Walsh County JDA to take care of some of their stuff while they're hiring?
I believe she is.
Okay, cause. 'Cause, I mean, I don't know if you guys have any questions, but, I mean, I know that, you know, we have to we're struggling getting checks from them to pay some of our bills. They normally submit them every month, and we're getting behind on some bills because we're not getting checks. I sent an email to Angela, a couple. Hopefully, since I mentioned it earlier, hopefully.
The head of the board is Julie Gimmel. You want to get hold of her.
Yeah, that'd be the best.
Diana Hahn's on there, who's from the Park River, I think.
Because
since I left, but
she was in Arizona, but I mean, I think she's
But
still
she's
pretty
still-
active.
yeah. She's the chairman.
Okay, did you need any contact info for her or?
Probably, I don't know.
I have Julie's number.
If one of you can text it to me, that'd be awesome.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Karen, do you have anything? How's it
No.
going there? Anything you want to discuss? Anything you want our input on?
No, no, not that I can think of. A lot of other issues besides counties, so.
Right, I'm sure you do.
And everybody wants a piece of the pie.
No, not really, I guess. Okay,
Were you able to get an update on our jail meeting? On the jail meeting that occurred last week?
no, I didn't actually. Did you guys decide something?
No, we're gonna proceed ahead. They were, the Samuels group was gonna meet with Pembina and Trail.
Right.
Okay,
And they're kind of on the wall, haven't decided, and we're just gonna proceed ahead with our own needs.
yep,
And we can't wait any longer.
They're supposed to get back to us by April 4th, hopefully, and we pretty much decided, and the guy said, take care of yourselves first.
Yeah.
So we're gonna look at our needs and everything else, and if they don't wanna make a commitment, we can charge them what we want or move forward, and if we don't have room, we don't take them, and you
Yep.
know, we gotta look out for Walsh County.
Right, we didn't feel that we could make a contract to contract beds with all these other counties just because it would. How would we ever pay for it? How would we ever come out ahead on that deal? And then you have to worry about the staffing and operational costs, and we kind of
Yep.
decided we have beds available, great, we'll rent them out, but we're not going to
We're not gonna-
guarantee.
We're not gonna build for them.
We're not going to bill for the, yeah,
Or ask on a referendum for our taxpayers to pay for beds from another
Right.
county when we don't have commitment from them, so.
Did you guys, you read the Herald much in Grand Forks County in that juvenile detention center they're building?
Oh, yeah.
And then Bob Ross got in trouble, something about the funding from the state for the prisoners they're holding. And there was a misunderstanding there, but they're sort of concerned too that, what was there, 65 million, I think, for that juvenile detention center? Yeah,
Well, by the,
Right now, Karen, they're more in a fact gathering mission
okay,
with the jailers in the jail. Just trying to figure out what our needs are.
yep,
Just trying to gather up as much information as possible and make the best choice they can, so.
and I toured it last week after the meeting with them, and I told Ron, I said, I think having the Samuels group, although. It's not in great shape, they're doing a good job with what they have, and I said, I think. The Samuels group being able to really show the underlines of this, the plumbing, the things that were not grandfathered in for. If we were to do something, the Department of Corrections we wouldn't be able to do any changes with this current jail are very important to educate our voters, so they understand a lot more than just what it looks like and,
mm-hmm.
Is there any talk down there, Karen, about the need across the state for jails and places for inmates to go and healthcare and mental care?
childcare.
Well, that's always talk, mental health and all that, and that's in the Human Service Committee. I hear it all the time. And they're giving funding for that. They have to. The Human Service is such a beast. It's the biggest budget there is, but
Yeah.
and I don't vote for everything because I don't think everything should be handed out to people either. So I didn't vote. I voted for the lunch bill, but I didn't vote for it to be free for everybody. We have people in our community who shouldn't be getting a free lunch. There are people in our community that should be getting a reduced or free lunch, but everybody shouldn't be getting free in the world. Right? I mean, if we have people here making $200,000 income a year, they can afford their lunches. So, I mean, that's one of them, but there's a lot of healthcare stuff and stuff that they're going to be doing. You know, I'm not in the judiciary, so I don't hear too much about DOCR. But you know, there's really nothing here that you can go to appropriations and say, give us money for a jail, because it's county. If we want to do that, then there's always going to be strings attached. So it's, yeah.
So, you know, when you look at statewide 16 facilities, and
I know.
everybody, state is scrambling for beds. Why can't the state look at this with a 10,000-foot view and see what the needs are? I mean, we're housing prisoners here for the state. We're housing prisoners for Cass County. I mean, everybody is scrambling. It just seems to me the state should be able to look at this a little better and make some funding available, if not fund part of it themselves. We certainly have.
They're not going to fund part of anything. They could maybe give money, but remember, they're not going to take over a county entity. That's just isn't going to happen. Yes, I can see money being put for that, but it needs to be a whole separate thing. We need to get people together to do it. And like I've said before, I don't know how to. Maybe now I could have done that, but in December I couldn't. You
bring that up.
Go ahead, Ernie.
You bring that up, and I was listening to the day on that guy from Richland County and the snow removal, and I wasn't aware of it, but him and another guy said, the governor can have the power too to declare a disaster and help these counties, cities, and townships with the snow removal. Then you're looking, and all of a sudden the paper, what was it? They projected how many billions of dollars are surplus from budget surplus?
3 billion.
Or general. And I'm going, you know what? Why don't you help these counties and cities out? I can't imagine like Jamestown, Bismarck, Fargo, and these little townships all around us, what their snow bill is. The plows go out one day and they're back again next day. And sometimes they got to get a backhoe or a payloader in there to open them up.
Well, I'm confused. That's what that one bill is, to give emergency money for snow removal. The one that Brent was talking about.
Yeah, but it is, but like the guy said, he sort of giggled and laughed. He said, that ain't gonna do anything.
Well, I know, but that is what the governor gave. That's what he gave. And
yeah,
so, I mean.
And is it something for like this whole jail question? Is there an organization or of your jailers or of your, those that are in charge of that need to maybe start rallying together to go and go to visitors to be able to give them a real
the sheriff's
view on what's going on?
I talked to the Association of Counties and Jeff Fritz there from Devil's Lake, Ramsey, they're having trouble. But because of legislation, I think the Association of Counties, it wasn't time enough quick.
Right.
Right.
Now it's time now comes, and our next step, we've got to be on the ball and get it started right away after the session. And
Yeah, because
there
that
has to be-
doesn't mean we can't get money next time.
Yeah, and maybe we dropped the ball. I'm not picking on, but I said, you know what? I guess we got to be more proactive too and start looking and pushing the county association. And he knows there's trouble out there when I talk to him. So.
Oh yes, I see him every day there. So.
Brian,
Okay,
is there anything else?
you guys have my number. I haven't gotten any texts.
Yeah, you did. You replied to mine about Eli.
Well, yeah, in a separate text. I knew that was going on before it happened, so.
Anything else for the commission? If not, we'll adjourn.
Okay,
Thank you.
glad we got this working.
Yeah.
Finally.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Ed, did you get any voting? If there's some, take some. Thank you.